leverage, and your leverage is your audience, because we live in a social media world, and we live in a world where the industry are looking at numbers. Who I am and my expertise and skills have not changed at all. The only thing that's changed is my TikTok following. And now, because of my following, I have people like Spotify coming to me and asking me to do interviews, and Warner coming to me, versus me having to chase.
Atlanta Cobb,
multi-platinum selling artist manager and music industry mentor.
So what that tells us right there is that if you have leverage, the world of opportunities, it's so much easier to grasp.
We finally made it to the end of season 2 of the All About Helping Musicians podcast, and we hit over 250,000 views over the last 9 episodes. And for the grand finale, I got the best guest yet. We got Atlanta Cobb, who is one of the fastest growing music marketers on TikTok, more than me, which is saying something. I went in January 2023. I went from 1,500 to 3,000 followers in 17 days. And then a month later, I doubled it to 6,000, a month later to 8,000, and then I've taken my foot off the gas. But Atlanta, she scaled her TikTok following to over 100,000 followers. And she is an ex-artist manager who gives advice across all different areas of the industry, from sync, from gigs, from streaming and fan-based growth, and so much more. And so she's a true inspiration, but her authenticity is what makes her a superhuman being, because she just radiates this positivity, and she's exactly the same online and in conversation. So in this episode, I wanted to get real, coach to coach, to discuss the differences between the two of our programs, how we think in terms of mindset, tactics, strategy about working with artists, and why musicians need a coach to achieve their goals. And so if you want to work with either of us, hit us up with a DM. But without any further ado, let's jump into the season finale. I was scrolling on TikTok and I found some content from you, and I went deep down the rabbit hole of just consuming, getting gem after gem after gem. And I definitely wanted to have an amazing conversation all about coaching. And I know you've got your brand as the music industry mentor, but like, what does mentoring an artist really mean for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting one, because I think mentoring and coaching they're actually quite different from each other. And I think when, obviously the brand is called Music Industry Mentor, but the way I look at mentoring is more, you pick apart the word, and what does that word mean? It's education, it's self-development, it's seeking advice from someone who's been there and done it, someone a bit more further advanced in your career. And honestly, I chose the name Music Industry Mentor more for SEO. I just thought, how is my audience going to find me? What are the things they're going to be searching? And they're going to be looking for music industry coaches, mentors, education. And I thought Music Industry Mentor just sort of stuck a little bit more. And so I think when it comes to the difference between mentoring and coaching, I think with coaching, it's a lot more of an even balance. It's like you are committing to your investment. You're committing to your self-development with coaching. And it's a coaching service, so it's way more structured. Whereas with mentoring, a lot of the times with mentoring, it really is kind of like luck of the draw and who's sort of available. And a lot of the time with mentoring, it's people it's not their full-time thing. They haven't really dedicated as much time and effort and energy to give you a well-built, structured service. Mentoring is kind of like you're hitting someone up here and there for a little bit of advice here and there. The depth that you need to go to actually move mountains for yourself, you're going to need someone like a coach who is hands-on in there with you every single day, dragging you through the fire, because it's a completely different experience when you have that almost like well-balanced agreement between each other. And that's kind of what I say to all of the artists and producers and songwriters and creatives that I coach. I go, coaching is done with you. It's not done for you. So by hiring me, I'm not going to make your dreams come true. That's on you to show up. It's the exact same thing with education and university. You show up to the lessons, but it's everything you do after the lessons. It's all the implementation that you do. It's to say, and I always use the gym analogy as well whenever it comes to coaching. And I say, you can show up to the gym and you can probably do maybe 40 minutes on the treadmill, and then you could do, a couple of squats, because that's what you think is right for you. And that's what you see everybody else in the gym doing for you. Or you can hire the personal trainer who understands your metabolism, your body type, and actually go, no, 40 minutes on the treadmill is not going to get you the washboard abs. It's actually weights. That's where you need to be spending your time. And then I'm going to carve out a personalized diet plan for you. Will you get the washboard abs or not? Even if you hire the PT, it's entirely on you to show up and do the reps in the gym and eat your meal plan and like do the work. It's the exact same thing. So I help you. I can guide you along the way. I could probably intro you to this person. It really depends on who your mentor is. But most, they're running so many other things. They've also got their full-time career as well. And so, of course, the level of service and the attention you're going to get is not going to be the same as if you hire that kind of full-time dedicated coach.
Absolutely. I literally couldn't agree more in terms of like having a mentor is not their specialty. They may have never have done it before.
No.
I was very lucky in my career. Like people like Benny Scars, people like Farron McKenzie, who would just see the young me hustling hard. And I said, can I grab a coffee once in a while? And they would just let me unpack and they'd give me some direction. But I totally agree. I think you and I have both clearly have hired business coaches who have kept us accountable. And I see a huge trend of growing music marketers on TikTok nowadays. And they're 18 years old. They haven't done the doing. And
Yeah,
you've had
that's
a long, successful career as a manager. I spent 7 years in digital departments within labels. Like we did the hands-on work on the ground. And I think that's how we have, you know, when you find every strategy that's right for each artist, like that won't work for you, but this will. That comes from the experience of doing it, I feel.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's why, I get a lot of people refer to, my coaching program, Platinum Artist, as a course. And I have to say, well, it's not a course. I actually don't have any kind of one flat advice to everyone. Sure, you can take elements from a course, but with what I do, because everyone is in a different boat. Everyone's got different set of skills, set of goals, different situation. And so with coaching, you can get super, super tailored into it. But yeah, you're so right there when it comes to seeing this sort of growing trend of a lot of mentors, gurus, coaches in music. And it's the most terrifying thing, seeing someone coaching something that they have actually not ever done or experienced or succeeded in themselves. And the only coaches I'm ever interested in working with are the ones that have been there and done it. And so I think that's what I've always led with is I've never ever claimed to know absolutely everything, especially in music. But the way I've built Music Instrumental is by literally just sharing everything that I've been and done and continue to do. And I think that's really, really important as well, is I wanted to be in the trenches with those because I knew a lot of the artists coming through, they all want to know how to build an audience. And so I know I've got to be in the trenches, building my own audience and doing it properly and figuring all of this out so I can practice what I preach. And that's exactly it. And then anyone that I work with, partner with, it's everyone is there practicing what they preach. And that is the only people I'm interested in aligning myself and Music Instrumental with. Because I just think how else can you sit there and talk about something that you have never done and you never experienced? And I think, sure, there's a place for kind of the traditional educational system, but I do see a lot in universities that it's a lot of outdated information. And I think that's the other side of the coin, is that, you people are getting themselves into huge student loan debt, studying a music business that is off a syllabus that's already outdated by the time you've left your course. And I think that's why you need someone who is in there giving you that real-time information. So that's why, I'm super, super big on that. Because how else are you going to be able to properly harness like what's going on in the industry? It's so fast changing. So you need someone on the ground figuring all of this out in real time to feedback and go, actually, I had a meeting with Spotify the other day. They told me X, Y, and Z. Oh, I was in with Apple Music the other day. They told me X, Y, and Z. Versus someone who's just from the outside and just peering in and observing and regurgitating other stuff from what they've read on a blog. That is not the same thing versus hiring someone who is in there doing it and being successful with it at the same time.
Or what worked 15 years ago at like the early 2000s or in the early 10s, like that kind of music industry when it was about a relationship game doesn't necessarily apply in the social media era. Like both of my coaches, I think I consumed their content for weeks and weeks and weeks before I even reached out to them. And the conversations were not join my program. It was
Mhm.
like, here's what I want to do for you,
Yeah.
right? Here's point A where you are. Here's point B where I want to get you to. How can I be the vehicle to get you there? In the midst of this conversation, we've been speaking about different ways that your fans can contact you. And one of the most exciting new technologies is Social Phone by DistroKid. This is an incredible way for your US fans to be able to text a USA number and be able to communicate directly with you. And I know what you're already thinking. Why are we using text messages? Isn't that behind the times? But actually, text messages have a 98% open rate sometimes, compared to social media that only 2% of your followers even see your posts. And the beauty about Social Phone by DistroKid is that you can give your fans a direct line to you, whether that's for promoting releases, your shows, merch, and more, whether they have questions that you want to answer for them, whether you want to start group conversations to get everyone to chime in, or create incentives where fans have to compete to get exclusive content and prizes. And the beauty of having fans connect to you is they're part of the process of releasing the song, and even if they don't get the goodies, they're down to listen to the music. If you want to try out Social Phone by DistroKid, head into your platform, create your own USA number, and get started using the steps. So if you're not part of the DistroKid family and this makes you want to join, make sure you sign up using my link, which is distrokid.com/VIP/all about helping. I just want to say a huge, huge thanks from the bottom of my heart to the DistroKid family for sponsoring the entire season 2 of this podcast. It's been real. I got mad love for you guys, and thank you for building the tools for smart artists. It's funny you said you don't have a course. That's where we might slightly differ. So I have a philosophy, I'm going to call it, and I call it the 6-week song release strategy. And to me, that's a minimum kind of time spent on a song. And there are exceptions to that, like a remix or like a kind of soft feature on someone else's thing. But I kind of have my founding principle of my coaching community around releasing a song for 6 weeks, doing certain activities in certain phases, and I live it myself. So if I'm
Yeah.
marketing a book, I follow my own procedure to release my own book. Are there any like non-negotiables that you start with when you coach an artist and you put maybe things on their roadmap? Are there any common things between all the artists, or is everyone like wildly different?
Everyone is a little bit wildly different. I mean, so the kind of artists I'm coaching is, for example, we've got Beatrice, who's 17 years old, from Italy, who's never released any music before, still discovering their sound and just wants to grow their audience, all the way to Grammy nominated recording producers in Colorado, who are expanding into like music tech as well, and doing crazy things with investors and Universal and all sorts. And so the level of experience is so broad, which I love because it makes my day super interesting. But there are the common thread with absolutely everything that everybody's doing in what I'm helping with is leverage. And your leverage is the audience, because we live in a social media world, and we live in a world where the industry are looking at numbers. And I always use myself as kind of the best case study, because, and I was on a call to some of my platinum artists last week, and I was saying, use me as proof. I said, you guys have known me long enough now, but who I am and my expertise and skills have not changed at all. The only thing that's changed is my TikTok following. And now, because of my following, I have people like Spotify coming to me and asking me to do interviews, and Warner coming to me, versus me having to chase. And I said, nothing else has changed. My talent, everything, what I can do, not changed. It's purely my numbers. So what that tells us right there is that if you have leverage, the world of opportunities, it's so much easier to grasp. And so a lot of the coaching is on obviously building an audience, and building an audience that actually care about you, that you can monetize, etc. But the way I kind of look at it is like, that is just one slice of the pie, because I've got my artist manager hat on, and I'm so used to kind of developing artists in as like a full, well-rounded artist that can look at other areas of the industry: sync, publishing, royalties, radio, press. We really cover it all. And it's so I can give everyone that I coach choice to go, oh, okay, actually, no, I haven't thought about this area of the industry. Maybe I want to do that instead. And I think that way it actually gives them such a broader sort of toolkit as to how to navigate the industry properly, and then decide where they want to take it. And then I'm just in their corner, kind of steering them along as they go. But yeah, in terms of the non-negotiables, it's the only things that I really look for when I'm bringing in any client to work with, whether it's on a intensive level and we are on message every single day or on weekly calls, or if it's more of a lower level where I'm maybe dipping in monthly, regardless of the level, the things I need to look for is someone who has goals, knows where they want to go, because if they don't know where they want to go, I don't know how I'm going to get you there. Like, I can't read your mind. So they just need to know where they need to go, their goals, what they want to do, and then someone who will show up and put in the work. Because if there's not that balanced energy, I can't drag someone through coaching. And I've had to, I've been on calls before with some clients who do show up, and I can just tell immediately we get on the call, the energy's not there. And I will say up front at this point, I go, hey, checking in, how are you doing? Are you, like, what's going on? Are you feeling a bit overwhelmed? Do you feel like you have capacity right now to actually take on board this call? Or shall we just cut this call off, roll this hour to another week, come back refreshed, take a break? Because I said, otherwise, we're going to sit on this call for an hour. You're not in the headspace to do this right now, clearly, because I could just read the energy. And I'll say, no stress, let's just do this another time. Because otherwise, we waste an hour of my client's time, an hour of my time, and you're not going to get anything out of coaching. And
100.
I'm not there to just sit on a call and talk at you for an hour. It needs to be that kind of interactive. It needs to feel like we're a team. And that's where you get the best out of coaching. And so, yeah, I've kind of become very, very good at sort of reading the energy of artists who show up and like, let's get it, we're going to crush it today, versus some who show up and it's like, it's not flowing. So if it's not flowing, I'll just say upright, we're not going to do this. We're going to do this another time. You go away, you take a break, you chill, you come back and you're going to refresh. Because otherwise it's just going to be a redundant hour. So yeah, I'll just kind of call it out right now. And same thing as well, we have an application process to work with me, because it's a really kind of high intense 6-month coaching on platinum artists. And so the questions are designed for me to actually try and spot any red flags with someone who may just not be the right energy for someone who truly is going to take this really, really seriously. And I think a lot of people who come through are looking for quick fixes, which is kind of really more of a mindset shift. And I think that's essentially the message you, me, all of us are in coaching are trying to share with our audience, is actually looking at investing in your own knowledge and your own skill set is so incredibly important, versus constantly wasting your money on trying to cut corners and looking for the quick result. Because anyone that's ever done this will tell you, to do well in music, it is such a long game mentality that you need to keep. Like, if you are looking for fast results, you are in the wrong industry. It's not going to happen. And I think especially with education, it's the instant results. It may not be within a month, it may not be within 6 months, but what you're putting in now, you will start reaping those results for years and years and years and years to come. And the one thing that people cannot take away from you is your education and your skill set. And that's the only thing. And so it's absolutely obvious to me that is the first port of call, especially if you're starting out in music, you don't know what to do. That's where you should spend your money on. Do not spend it on Facebook ads. Spend it on your own education first, so you have the tools to decide and make better decisions as to where you're going to take your career and how you're going to do it. And I think that's really kind of what I feel like us as a collective are just trying to empower our audience to know, actually, you can do this for yourself now.
Without question.
It's the tools are there, as in you, me, we are there. But it's getting people over that hurdle to realize, actually, the answers aren't in a fast, quick promotion service that's probably hit you up in the cold email outreach with their script. It's like someone who properly gets you and understands where you want to go, and they can just basically input their knowledge into you and then you now have the power to make better decisions.
Every day, it terrifies me how many musicians have not captured the email addresses of their followers, their fans, and their superfans. But today, thanks to Symphony OS, they've got 3 brand new tools that you can use to start capturing your fan base data. They have a website function. It's kind of like a link tree on steroids. And within the Symphony OS platform, you can create lots of different types of websites. Either one, to link out to all of your different streaming platforms and all your different albums, EPs, songs, and projects. The second is for data capture, where fans put in their name, their email address, maybe their telephone number, so you can start accumulating their email addresses. And the third type of website Symphony OS offer is the pre-save function. And using each of these, you can capture your fans' data within the fans section of Symphony. And you have a full breakdown, kind of like a CRM or a Rolodex, a mailing list of all of your fans, that you can have the data to be able to speak to your community. And that's one of the most powerful things you can own forever as an artist. And so if you're interested in trying out Symphony, you can get a free trial of the pro version using my link, which is symphonyos.co/allabouthelping. There's a little bit of code in there, so make sure you grab the link from the description below. Let them know you've been sent by the All About Helping family and give it a try for yourself on your next release. Well, I'm Muslim myself, but there's this phrase that is like, teach a man to fish and not give a man a fish. Right? And I think for myself, my whole brand, not enough people know this, but All About Helping is the initials of my full name, Ayaz Aftab Hussain.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
because my grandfather, his name was Aftab Hussain, and everyone always called him the most helpful man anyone ever knew. So my legacy is in his name, to kind of support these artists in the way I wish someone supported me when I was a 14-year-old DJ. Like, I wish I had a big brother who dropped game, who said, stay away from that stupid stuff. That's not going to serve you. You're being inauthentic. Get back on the right thing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Here's 20 systems that are proven to work. Why are you trying to like redesign life when you can just follow a blueprint? And I think coming back to what you said about artists don't have their own goals, I want to just stay here for a second, because they kind of sometimes expect the coach to tell them what they quote unquote should be doing, and they haven't got a vision for themselves. And I've had a form in my application process during my coaching program, and I took it away after a while because the goals were audacious. People say, I want 1 million streams, and I check and you never even had 10,000. People say, I want to go on tour around the UK, but you never even played a show outside your own city. People would say, I want to be synced in a major video game, but you never even had a song played on the radio. And I think people have this dream destination. They kind of put their success at that finish line and say, I won't be successful until I get this. And I personally think that the journey's wrong. I kind of think artists think, I'll get heard, then I'll grow fans, and then it will all just magically happen. And I don't like this kind of mindset. I think you have to build brick by brick, and you collect the fans along the way of marketing the music. Then when the fans deeply care, they'll be asking you, what can I do to support? And you figure out the mechanism, the vehicle that you give them, whether it's community, whether it's merch, whether it's whatever. So they're part of the brand. You don't just get to this imaginary finish line and suddenly, like YouTube, you're suddenly eligible for monetization. I don't think the game works that way. Like, how do you see that journey of like, you take the artist to their goal, but they have to ultimately know where they want to be. They have to be the CEO of their craft. And the coach is like the COO, the chief operating officer, that logistically brings their vision to life.
No, and I think that's you completely hit the nail on the head there. And I say this all the time to so many artists, that you have to be the CEO of your own career. You have to sell the vision to all kinds of people, to fans, to industry, to managers, to me as your coach, and really, really fully understand where it is you're going, so people can come on board and join the journey. And so I think in terms of where a lot of artists look at it, is they put the successful metrics so far ahead of where they are. And actually, it's kind of almost about sort of stacking success. Now, as a coach, every single time, I get on one-to-one coaching calls, and they're asking me for advice, and I go, or they talk about their next music release. So let's say we've got an artist who has just released a song, and they go, it didn't go the way I wanted it to. And I go, what did you want it to do? What were your expectations of it? And I say that with every single release. It's like, look at your releases as building blocks to get to the next one, and the next one, get the 1,000 streams, get the 5,000, get the 10,000. I say the same thing with building followers on socials. I say, if you can build 1,000 followers, if 1,000 people are interested in what you're in and what you're doing, and if 1,000 people are interested in what you're doing, then 2,000 people will be interested in what you're doing. 2,000 people are interested in what you're doing, 5,000 are, 10,000 are, 20,000 are. And that's basically it. And once you're sitting at around sort of like a 20,000 follower mark plus, then it's essentially just rinse and repeat, because you've managed to establish 20,000 people who love what you do. You're rinsing and repeating. But until you're hitting that 20K follower point, you just got to figure out what works, what doesn't. Keep going, take the hits. But I think everyone gets so caught up with the end destination. And as someone who, I'm very, very grateful for it, but I've been able to achieve a lot in a very short-ish space. Well, I say short, 13 years, but like short-ish space. I like to think I'm not that old yet, but because I've been able to do a lot and hit a lot of milestones, I can recognize, actually, you hit a milestone and you're just like, okay, what's next? It's not this granular sort of thing. It's like, okay, cool, I can do it. So you just keep on doing it. It's like the same thing. You'll hit the 1 million streams and you'll get there and you'll go, wow, I really understand when people say it really is all about the journey, not the destination, because there's so much truth to actually enjoying the ride and building what it is, rather than just rushing to get to the end destination all the time. So yeah, as a coach, I have to bring down the expectations a lot, and not to discourage, but actually go, no, focus just on this thing first.
Yep.
And then we get to that thing. Focus on booking a support slot, and then get the next support slot, and get the next support slot. And then you've got 3 support slots, nice and juicy. You're going to add that's a bit of leverage. And then you can start selling more tickets. And then, like, there's such nuance to it. It's so much more than just, I want to get 1 million streams. It's like, actually, and I think at the core of it, whenever I hear artists say they want to get 1 million streams, they want to get loads of followers, at the core of it is what I hear is that artists want to do this full time. They want to build a full-time music career. And you can do that without having 1 million streams. You can do that without having hundreds of thousands of followers. And I think that's actually it. I think artists they want to do music full time, and they want to be successful, and they want to make a full-time income and do all the things they want to do. And that's it. That is possible. But I think attaching yourself to really, really huge metrics that are so far away from where you're at, it's going to make the process so much more painful, and you're going to end up not enjoying it, because you're constantly attaching yourself to a massive, massive win that could be 5 years, 10 years off. And so actually, and it's the same thing that goes for sort of like vision boards and things, when people put like, the mansion on the vision board, or, the $1 million on the vision board, but they got like 10 quid in their bank account. It's like, actually, let's just bring it down to like the first phase. All right. So, instead of putting $1 million in your bank account, your vision board, what's that first goal? Is it 10 grand? Is it 20 grand? No, let's get there first. And if you can do that, the domino effect happens. If you can make 10K a month, you can make 20K, you can make 30K. Yeah. It's the same process. If you can hit 5,000 Spotify monthly listeners, you can hit 10,000 Spotify monthly listeners. It's the domino effect. So I think it's really important.
You know, the irony is it actually doesn't feel as sweet when you finally achieve it. Like, I had a mixtape that hit 100,000 views, and I was like, on SoundCloud, I was like, oh my God, I was gassed for one night. And the day after, I felt exactly the same. There's exactly an emptiness.
Yeah,
there's an emptiness. And I've always found that artists, they slow down on their own work rate when they don't think things are working, instead of pushing down on the gas harder. Like, going back to what you said what did you think would happen if this song didn't do what you wanted?
Mhm.
Like, we have to ask ourselves as artists and creatives, like, did we truly give everything we've got in the tank? Or
Yep.
the moment we hit a speed bump, we're like, I'm done with this. This is looking like I'm begging it. I'm feeling desperate. I don't want to try hard with this because I'll embarrass myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
artists, they self-sabotage unknowingly because they care so much what their peers think as other artists,
Mm-hmm.
and they care less enough about how can I make a banger experience for a fan that changes their life.
Yeah.
And my personal belief is like, if you always put that fan first, you can never go wrong.
Yep.
Right? If you put the
That's it.
blinders on to the outside world and say, okay, yeah, my coach is telling me I've got to do 42 posts. 42 posts. Do I really have to do that? If you're complaining from the jump about how much you have to do, then you're not willing to do more than what is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen artists who do 140 posts and then they go viral.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard this analogy before. Like, if you were told that your 700th post was going to go viral, how
Mm-hmm.
quickly would you want to get there?
Yep. Yep.
Right?
It's
Because
exactly
if
that.
you were told it's going to happen, if it was an inevitability, you'd race through those 700 posts to get there
Mm-hmm.
quickly. But
Yeah.
just being told it might happen, it could happen, it will probably happen, artists, they give up on themselves.
Yep.
And this
Yep.
whole allure of being mysterious, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the mysteriousness is
Exactly
not
that.
going to tell your story to a fan who wants to consume more. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to consume less.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the issue that I have, is that artists, they fudge up their own releases. I know we're talking about coaching, but let me take a second to speak about social media with you guys. A lot of you don't know what to post on your Instagram, on your TikTok. A lot of you are trying to promote your music, but you haven't got an exact game plan of what you are creating in the narrative build up to the release of your song and then once it's out. And if you're feeling stuck, I'm here to help. And let me tell you about my viral artist playbook. This is a collection of over 200 content ideas that I'm growing every single week to populate all the best content that my real clients are posting and viral musicians that I spot on TikTok and Instagram. I bookmark them and add them to the playbook. If you want to get your hands on this, you can grab it from my Gumroad for just £47. This is the cheapest product I've ever sold in my life, because I'm done with courses. I'm done with trying to make people only get goodies when they become a client. With this playbook, you get lifetime access. So whenever I update it, your link automatically has a new content added. So if you want to grab yours, head to allabouthelping.gumroad.com via the link in the description, and you grab a copy of the Playbook Notion template. And like I said, updates for life. So that's the best investment you could ever make. Other than a gatekeeper, ads didn't work. I didn't get on this playlist. I didn't get on this blog. I didn't get played on this radio. You had the power all along to
Yep.
drum up your own hype. You didn't take advantage of it. As
Yep.
cold and brutal as that sounds, would you agree?
You're completely bang on the mark. And I get asked a question often of how many times should I post on TikTok or Instagram? And I've sat here as someone who is still continually building my own audience on these apps. I've never once questioned how many times should I post on these apps. I just go and do it. Just go and do it. Just post as much as you can, because there's no finite answer to that. It's how much can you post and maintain the quality of your posts.
Yep.
And that's it. For some people, that's 5 times a week. For some people, that's 20 times a week. But guaranteed, if you are posting more than your competition, just basic math, you will likely get to the destination a lot quicker than if you're posting once or twice a week. That's just how this works. And so the same thing in that whole breadth is I think it's the blame shifting as well that I see going on of, I'm stuck in the 200 jail for you. Why is it not working? Look inwards. And I say this all the time to the artists and producers that I coach, look objectively. And I just reverse engineer it all the time. And I say, if you were to go onto the app and you were scrolling, would you stop and watch that entire video that you've put out? And majority of the time they go, no. Okay, well, there's your answer. It's not
Yep.
good enough then.
Yep.
Re-go, re-edit, repost. And I always talk about this one creator that I came across who was talking about how they had a video and they would go in and post it, and they knew they were sitting on some sort of gold, but they just they hadn't nailed the edit. So they went and posted it the first time. It sort of, hit sort of maybe 1,000 views. Went in, restudied the data, the drop-off points, the retention, came in, re-edited the second time, 10,000 views. They were like, still not quite there yet. Anyway, this creator did this 9 times,
Wow.
went in, studied it, re-edited it, made it better, reposted it. 9 times until they hit 1 million+ views.
Crazy.
And I think that's it though, because I think so many of us, we obviously see all of our own content that we post. Guarantee with the only person, unless you've got, like a manager who's like super into all of your content. Even then, as a manager, I've never seen 100% of my artist's content. There's no way. There's absolutely no way, because there's the amount of volume that goes out. So I always say, not 100% of your audience are going to see 100% of your content. You are the only person that will see 100% of your content. So if you are posting out one video about your release, expecting 100% of your audience to see it, there's no way. It's not going to happen. So, and I hear this so many times from my clients who say that, oh yeah, but I feel like I'm going to be annoying if I keep posting about my release. Or, like a lot of friends and family follow my posts and, I keep posting about it. I'm like, I guarantee you not 100% of your audience will see 100% of your content. It just doesn't work like that. So repost the post. Post it 5 times, post it 10 times, mix it in with a bunch of other stuff. And I think a lot of us get very caught up in when we hold ourselves back in that respect.
Yep.
And actually, it's a lot less work if you do that versus, and I say, do you think posting that one video with that one edit that you've done at that one time of day that you've done with the one caption that you've done is good enough? Because so many people do. And they go, yep. Oh, all right, that got 200 views. Never going to do that again. I'm going to think of a brand new video, completely fresh, and do it all over again. And then they go, oh yeah, I got 200 views. Well, I guess I won't do that idea again. And they just push it to one side. And it's like, no, dig deeper, go in, figure out where do people drop off, and just be brutally honest to yourself. Look at it objectively and go, could I have done that any better? And I still, to this day, every single post that I post, I'm like, could I have cut something else out? Did I deliver that properly? Was that concise? Was the energy there? Was the editing on point? Was the audio and video quality there? I obsess over all of my edits to go, truly, was that the best that I could do? And if it's not, I'll go in and I'll refilm it or I'll re-edit it until it is. And that's I'm not going to settle on that quality, because it's about aligning that expectation for your audience. If you're going to show up on the For You page consistently with a really, really quality post, your audience are then going to expect every time you show up on the For You page that your post is going to hit and people are going to stop and watch it. Versus if you continually show up on someone's For You page with rubbish content, the expectation before they've even watched your video is, this is rubbish. And I know it's rubbish because I always see this creator show up, but their content sucks. So I'm going to scroll. Versus someone who is showing up with really, really good content. And then now they've aligned the expectation with the audience that, this creator, they're good. They give me value every single time. So I know they've already caught my attention before I've even engaged in the video. And it's actually, it's aligning expectations across the board.
That is such a necessary mindset. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that reminder serves as like constantly in the pursuit of greatness, constantly in pursuit of 1% better. Like I remember Rick Rubin told this story when he was talking about working with Kanye. And he said, I didn't add to the record, I subtracted from the record. So I took things away from it that were distracting. And I think to give you your flowers about your content, like I think it's clear you finish a long ass day and you're like, I have a message to share. Let me just in the chair against my wicked record plaques on the wall, let me just talk and just vent. Yeah. And you're very authentic and you're casual. I'm very purposeful. I set up my nice lighting in this room. I know what I'm on about and I will deliver to camera. And more recently, I found that I don't have the time in my day. Like the reason I'm not growing at the rate I should be is because I'm actually operating my business and I'm running the agency. Yeah. Right. And so what I found is more recently, I started vlogging. while I'm on my daily walk and while I'm driving in the car, I can just put the phone on the mag stand and just talk. And I can churn out 5-6 vlogs in a week because they need no editing. There's no like a traditional vlog, none of that. It's like a one take. And I found that's been so effective for me to just speak my truth and like share that long form advice that is straight from the heart. And I think it pierces better because you're not talking from a place of like, I wrote this hook and then I'm going to do this animation and I'm going to do this graphic overlay. You and I both just speak and we make a logical sense about I've learned this week. I can't wait to test this next week. I've just got a new piece of information. I think that's what people want to hear is like something exciting and emotionally triggering rather than just here's what you should be doing. Like people who need to lose weight know that they should lose weight, but they don't take action until something emotionally triggers them into it. Sometimes that's soft, sometimes that's hard. It depends on what they need at that moment in time. And I think your and my content does that, where we speak to where the consumer is at in that moment.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that comes from a place of really just understanding your audience and spending a lot of time with your audience. And this is another thing that I say to everyone that I coach. And I go, do you truly know your audience? Like, do you know what they want? Or are you just showing up and posting videos because that's what you want to post? And the amount of times I go, it's not actually about you. It's about your audience. It's entirely about your audience. You are just, again, you're that vehicle. You're that vehicle to give your audience what they want. And a lot of audiences, especially of musicians, they want to be entertained. My audience, they want to learn something. They want to be educated. And so the second I make it about me, no one cares because they want the thing. They want, they want the entertainment. They want the inspiration. They want the education. So it's like, it's actually by removing that almost that ego of like, yeah, it's about me. It's like, no, it's not. It's about making quality content that's going to serve your audience. And the more people recognize that, the better time they will have showing up on socials and engaging and connecting with people. That's it. That's literally it. It's just about your audience. So it's all of it. It's like, it's more just psychology and how you approach showing up online. And there's so much of it where you literally just have to reverse engineer it and go, is this too much about me? And it's the classic thing when I see artists show up and they're like, listen to my song, or my song's about X, Y, and Z. And it's like, the wall is up. You're not letting anybody in because no one knows you. So why are they going to care what your song is about? Thanks. Make it about them. It's all about the audience. And that's the only thing I've ever lent in with whenever I showed up to socials. And I truly think it's the one thing that's enabled me to grow is giving what my audience want and just giving that in abundance. You give in abundance, it will come back in time. But you have to show up for your audience. You have to give them something before you take. And just going back to that original question that you asked when you're talking about, fans wanting, when you want musicians who show up to get heard and then they grow the audience and then they monetize. It's actually grow the audience first.
Yep.
And then you'll get heard. You'll get heard by default when you grow your audience. But it's all about the audience. And if I could actually just say, like, just being super, super candid, because I know there's so many people who say, go do this, go do this, go do that. And it's like, truly, if there's one thing that you can do and you only have time to do one thing, obviously, given that like the music's there, right? The music's always obviously got to be of quality. But if you could only do one thing, it's grow your audience, because your audience, they are the key to unlock all of this. If you have an audience there primed, ready to go, you can do whatever you want to do with them. And that's literally what happened to me. I built the audience and then I was sat there 7 months later going, what do I do with it now? What do I want to do with it now? Do I build a course? Do I build a program? Do I do one-to-one coaching? Do I drop a merch line? I don't know, but I had the options. And that is so much more exciting when you have the options and the warm audience there, because you've laid the groundwork. Versus I could have done what a lot of other people do and show up to social media immediately and go, buy my course, buy my program, do this, work with me, work with me, work with me. I didn't do any of that for 6 to 7 months. And I just made it about the audience. And now I've built the trust. And now I know what my audience want. I understand my audience a lot better. It's the same thing with music marketing. It's like, just show up, give your music, give your talent in abundance, figure out what works, what doesn't, what does your audience like, what do they not, and then you understand your audience better. Then people will want the thing naturally a lot more once you work on what that thing is, right? And then you get the options, and then you can decide what you want to do. Do you want to drop a show? Do you want to drop a release? Do you want to get a manager? Whatever it is. But you have the option, and that's what it's about. It's actually leaning in, building the core audience first, and then you'll get heard. You'll get heard by default if you have the audience there.
That is a beautiful lesson and so well said. I think just even comprehending the depth of that is like making sure that we don't fall into that guilty trap of pushing product. And I truly believe that every artist needs to replace promotion with emotion. But it's more difficult than it sounds, because sometimes you do want to, market, for the lack of the better word, your next song. We all have YouTube videos we need to drive views to. And I think it's by changing and shifting the goal that we're working towards, rather than asking people to click, we're giving them this content. And I think the shift in energy is just so key, because if it truly is for them rather than for yourself, it will change the habits of how you talk about the product. And if it truly is like, I want to give you this visual experience, I don't want you to watch my video. Like the pronouns, even down to the language used, is key. And I will hold my hands up. I've been guilty of it. I've been trying to figure out who I am, figure out life as a 33-year-old myself. Like, we all sometimes lose ourselves to ego. And sometimes we are so desperate to get views that we do tactics that can harm us rather than help us. And I think what I'm just hearing from you, like in loudness, is like how it's not about you. Even when you were winning an award or talking at the Grammys, your community was celebrating your success rather than you bragging about achieving the thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that you've always framed everything as, I'm doing this for us, rather than you're part of my fandom. Like I'm one of the people, and we are one unit. I think that's what's been amazing to watch about your journey.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, and I think that's it. I mean, you can't. It comes naturally, and I don't think you can. I don't think you can really act that sort of, we are one together. I think you either you truly care about your people or you don't. But what people are really good at is seeing through that. But I think with social media, I think the way it's been designed is, we would have our own profiles, and the profiles would be all about us. But actually, I think as people who are delivering a service, right, whether it's us or whether it's musicians' service is to entertain their audience. If we are people who are, essentially on a stage, then it's making your audience feel seen. And honestly, like, especially as a super fan, like when I started out as 14, I was a super fan. What did I want as a super fan? It was to be heard and seen by the artist that I loved. And I've kind of always taken that notion, especially when building my own audience. When I start seeing people commenting on my stuff, I'm going to give that love right back, because if someone's taken their time out of their day to comment on my video, I respect their time. So I'm going to be back, and I'm going to be chatting away back in the comments with them. Whereas I think a lot of people have this wall up of, I am the artist or I am the creator, and you're all just sort of here. And it's like, no, man, we're in this together. I'm right there with you. And it is that everything I do, it's always, how can I make this about my audience? And by just tapping into that, I think is just community building 101. It's, if I get a really nice DM, I'll screenshot it, I'll put it on my stories, and I'll thank them, I'll shout them out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's, it's like this energy. You're bringing people in. And I say this to all the artists when I go on their socials, and they're like, why is it not connecting? And it's like, I'm on your socials and I feel like there's a wall up, and I don't feel like I'm being let in. And it is, you got to let people in. And that's exactly it. It's going down to the language of how you speak across the board, your social media tone, your captions, you're going live, or if you're writing hooks on your videos, it's put it about them all the time and letting people in. That's a huge part of it. Social media, isn't it? It's like, we got to be social, we got to connect.
Got to be social.
And so many people don't want to connect. They just want to make it about themselves. And actually remove that ego. Don't make it about yourself. Don't show up to social media when you just have something to sell. Show up for your people. And with time, your product will sell with time, because you've established the trust and the connection. And that's the absolute fundamental of it. And that's it. That's how I've done it. There's no crazy science. It's literally showing up and giving the people what they want in abundance. They love it so much. They then want the next thing. It's the same thing with music. You do that exact same thing. People will want your music. They will know where to go. They'll look at Spotify. They will go to the link in bio. You don't have to constantly tell them. If you give the goods in abundance, people will naturally want the goods even more, and they'll follow the funnel. They'll find it. They'll go on Spotify.
I couldn't even possibly agree more. I think you've said it so perfectly. That is the exact place I want to wrap this. The exact place I want to leave season 2. It's been an amazing journey speaking to CEOs, executives, like marketers, and now creatives. I am so grateful for you, Atlanta. Where can
Thank
people
you so much.
connect with you? Where can they join Platinum Artists? Where can they discover more about your brand?
Yeah, so it's at Music Industry Mentor on TikTok, on Instagram. We are launching a membership very, very soon called the Music Industry Mentor Membership, which is welcome to anyone of all genres, all levels, all locations. And I've currently got the last few spots to apply to my high-level Platinum Artist coaching. You can just find me on Instagram, drop me a message, and we can help you out further.
You're a legend. I appreciate your time. And
Thank you so
thanks
much.
so much.
Been real, man.